Hey guys, this is Steven and Connie Jacks, and we sold the biggest house in Alabama, and we're going to talk about that right now. Well, hello.
Hello.
7 Montagel Way, biggest house in Alabama, 68,000 square feet, 22 bedrooms.
15 bathrooms.
Monster
Monster
right?
house.
28 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable decor, and yeah.
I remember where we were the first time I laid eyes on it. So, coming down the driveway, I remember we were visiting some friends, and we'd never seen the house. They said, "You got to see this house." And we pulled up, and to look at this house from the driveway, it really does take your breath. So we have an appreciation for real estate, and especially luxury real estate, because we're real estate agents. But I think anyone and everyone, and what we figured out over the past 3 years is that it is really hard not to stop and admire the house from the driveway.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, when you see the house, it takes your breath away.
It does.
And everybody pulls out their phones when those gates open. It is magical without question. And we were the same way.
Yeah. And we sold it.
You know, what's even funnier is that when I first got into real estate, 2016, 2017, that house had just come on the market. And I remember starting out going, oh my God, how do you even get there? And then just selling it is mind blowing to me.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think that, I want to preface this whole thing with everybody thinks it went on the market, thinks it sold, and
it didn't.
Super easy.
Sell.
Super easy,
Right.
Super fast. Like, oh, how lucky are we? But what I think that we would like to talk about today, and what I want to shed some light on, because there's so much surrounding the house right now that is just amazing. The house did sell, and there are going to be some renovations. There's a lot out there right now on it. You can find it on all the news channels, news media, YouTube. But what we really want to discuss today and talk about is kind of getting down into the nitty gritty of what did we have to go through?
Yeah, behind
what did
the
it
scenes,
take?
behind the
what
scenes
did it
stuff,
take to sell the largest house in Alabama?
Because that was a 2.5 years, 3-year project. That was a situation that nobody knows. So this is kind of behind the scenes, but also some stuff that people don't know what you and I went through.
Yeah. And I'm not really sure I'm still over it. But,
right? And there's some things where it's we can't share.
Yeah. Well, we can share, and what I will say is that we can share about 95% of the journey, and I'm excited to be able to do that. So, back in February 2023, you and I were talking, and we had sold a house in Shoal Creek already.
That's right.
Was a great time for us because we were like, hey, let's mail to the neighborhood. And wouldn't it be awesome if we could talk 7 Montagel Way seller into selling his house?
Right.
So what I go back to is, yes, we were mailing, we were sending those mailers, we were talking about it. It was just a big pipe dream at the moment. But we had a client in town.
That's right.
That was looking around.
Big time client. Owns hotels in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Buildings, commercial buildings
in Chicago. Hotels.
So he was looking at houses, and we took him to the house to really you're driving through Shoal Creek, and it's
piece of jewelry.
You got to see it. You got to see what if you want to live in Shoal Creek, you got to check out this house. So driving up, and I'm a big believer in body language. And so I'm always looking at clients and their faces to see if I can get a read on whether or not they really like the property we're in.
And that, to me, I don't like looking at people in their faces when they're looking at stuff.
Oh, no.
To me, it's just sort of like,
well,
if they're looking at something, I'm not staring at them.
No, I wanted to see his face.
Though.
I do. And I wanted to see his face when we drove up, and it was worth every moment that I had waited to see his face, because he looked dead at me and he said, I want that one. And I will never forget that. So it kind of became this mission to get him this house. Right. And, we talked about this. Like, we noticed there were ladders, there were, things sitting around.
Broken windows.
That looked like there was potentially some work going on at the house. That's and right. we thought even more at that time, hey, it might actually be a possibility. So one thing led to the other. In his search for wanting to, just to explore, can we get this house for him?
Because we were sending letters out, and I remember them going to Beverly Hills, somewhere else,
Vegas,
Las Vegas, and I was like, "Who's going to get these letters?
Yeah, is he going to get the letters? Is the seller going to get the letters?" But I happened to find his phone number, and I called and left a message. And didn't think anything else about it. We forgot about it.
Yeah, because you don't know if those numbers that are listed on there are real, fake. Maybe it's just some number they put there to make the trail longer to find them.
Yep. So forgot about making the phone call. And this is what I think is so interesting too about high net worth individuals is. There's always a gatekeeper, right? But I wasn't thinking that. I'm just thinking I need to call and leave a message.
Well, in this case, there were several gatekeepers.
There were several gatekeepers at this point, but we did not know this yet. So I'm happening down the road one day, and I get a phone call out of the blue, and answer my phone, as good agents do. And this person starts telling me that he's moving to Birmingham from San Diego. Moving his family, has two or three daughters, and they're moving here. And he started asking me about the neighborhood of Shoal Creek, and he said, "Oh yeah, I think I saw a really big house in there. Is that what's going on with that house?" And I just straight up told him, we don't really know. We'd love to be part of the sale if that was ever a possibility, but right now it's not for sale, and there are other properties in the neighborhood that I'm sure that he would love.
Trying to put them on something else.
Yeah. So didn't think anything about that. Forgot about that. Until August of that same year, he calls me back. And of course, I'd sent text messages to follow up, but calls back and says, "Hey, Connie, I wasn't really forthcoming with you when I called to explore whether or not you knew anything about Shoal Creek."
Weird.
So he says, "I'm representing the seller of 7 Montagel Way."
I remember that.
Yeah. And we think you are the person to list the house and get the job. And so he's interested in selling it. And that was a great moment.
Yeah. And what's so funny about that moment is I had a missed call from San Diego and didn't answer. I was like,
there you go, ladies.
I mean, that's going to I have a car warranty. Thank you. I don't need that right now. Yeah. So that's sort of and that's what a lot of people around here, if you get a phone call from, somewhere in San Diego, you should probably take it.
Well, I think the big thing too, the big message for agents is to, be responsive. You never know what's around the corner.
You really don't.
We've gotten lots of phone calls, just kind of sidebar convo, but lots of phone calls from people who have said, because you answered the phone, I have a referral for you. So I think it's a great, lesson kind of in real estate to just know you've got to be available.
1,000%. Or you could have been like me, because I wouldn't have called it back.
Yeah. Well, it was a learning experience for sure. And we were really excited to get the ball rolling. And I think that day or the next day, we had to get with the house manager and take a look at the property.
Right. But the house manager was also a pilot, right?
No, the house manager, the house manager was.
Hold on. Nope. We're going back to 2023.
We're going back to 2023.
The house manager was basically like a 23-year-old kid who ran some company.
Yeah.
And we're like meeting this guy.
Yeah, he lets us in the house. We were able to go through the house and see the property for the first time.
Right.
Tons of video, tons of photos, because we had never been in the property before. We had only seen online, and so being able to be in it for the first time, and it was a little bit of a shock. So, this is where I think that a lot of the footage that's out there right now, but we couldn't really talk about this initially when we listed the house. So
the house was bad. The
house was not in great shape.
I remember when we did go inside. Spider webs everywhere. Mm-hmm. I think I walked out of there with spider webs.
Mm-hmm. We all did.
On my jacket, on my,
in my hair. Mm-hmm. Nightmares.
There were dead rats everywhere. There was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, and a lot of so if you've ever had work done on your home, contractors are not the cleanliest people when they're doing things, and they just do things and they leave things sitting around.
The dust, the sawdust, everything.
It felt like a construction zone when we first went in there, and we were really surprised because we were tasked with, okay, this is potentially going to be our listing, and we know what homes need to look like.
Right. We know what buyers are looking for
in order to sell. Right. So, but there were a lot of things that we did understand, and we came to understand. And I think that this is really a huge part of this and why it took 2 years to sell. But there was a lot that you and I had to do to get the house ready to sell.
Oh.
Or before anybody could even walk in.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, that day that we went to go see it, I actually got a flat tire. I had a nail in my tire in my car. Now, that's my baby. That's my Aston Martin baby. And I'm rolling out of there with a flat tire. Big old nail in my car, in my tire. That's how bad that place was. You couldn't even drive in without something bad happening to you. Or something bad happening to your vehicle.
Well,
and we cleaned that place.
We did, but let's get to that. Let's get to that
place
later.
Twice.
Let's get to that later.
You ever cleaned a 68,000 square foot house?
Yes, I have. but let's.
How many people can say that?
Yeah, right. So our buyer, the one that looked at it and said, "I want that one."
Exactly. And so we took him there.
We took him there, brought him to the house, let him tour the property, and went under contract a week after.
That's right.
Walking into the house for the first time.
That's right. We did.
Yeah. We got, 10 days before the closing.
Exactly. Well, his whole contingency was he had to sell a commercial building that was in
Florida.
Wait. No, it was like St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
St. Petersburg, Florida. Am I saying that right? St. Petersburg?
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Petersburg, Florida. And gorgeous house he had right there on the water. I think it was like $8 million that he had his house listed for. But he had a commercial building too that he was wanting to sell. And it was contingent on that selling. And then, like you were saying, 10 days before closing, that building still ain't sold. So he tried to come back and say, I can't give you what we were under contract for, but I can give you this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough.
And the seller was out at that point. So we're under contract. We fall out from under contract. And
I was actually worried that the seller at that point was just kind of done with us because it was like, we had come to him saying, we want to sell your house in a letter. We brought him a buyer. Buyer didn't perform. So I'm sitting back going, this guy's never calling us again.
Oh, I had faith, Stephen. I had lots of faith. I knew we weren't done.
Okay.
But
so we weren't done.
We weren't done.
Right.
And the fun part about this is all of the ideas that then I kind of was allowed to like pitch in some capacity. So we've got lots of options, and I love, if you don't know what your options are, you don't have any. But now we've got a seller, and let's talk about this for just a moment because I think this is important to understand. Why was the house in this condition? The seller is, again, high net worth individual, but has several homes all over the world and was not in town. And let's talk about a little bit what happened with the home, because I think this is really important.
Yeah, because he was having that house renovated from Monaco.
Yes, and all of the things that could have gone wrong went wrong in this house.
The contractors were telling him that they were bringing in marble from Italy, and it was from Home Depot. Mm-hmm. No kidding.
Yeah, ceramic tile.
Right. They were also just putting in the most god-awful hardwoods.
Yeah, almost linoleum floors.
Yeah, it was
in the house.
Well, and the funny part is that linoleum that they were putting in was brown linoleum that they had painted white. That's how bad it was. It wasn't like they were making these floors white, but they were painting it, then putting it down. That's how bad this was.
We've had a lot of owners of properties from out of town that have been in similar situations.
Right.
Because we had another one in Shoal Creek, very, very similar. And it is really hard when you own a property and you're not there to oversee and you don't have someone that you can trust to get the job done. And I think that at this point, when you've got 55,000 square feet in the main house, 68,000 square feet total over the size of the property, and you are not in town to oversee this, and you don't have anyone that you can trust to help you with a project like this, it was super easy for him. He's a busy individual.
Right.
He doesn't have time to fool with windows and contractors who aren't doing the jobs that they should be doing. And the house wound up in terrible shape for that reason. And it was not hard for it to get away from him quickly.
Right.
There's also a water leak. Why don't you talk a little bit about the water leak?
There was a water.
While the contractors were kind of in charge of the renovation.
So there was a water leak. I don't know if that water leak was caused by the contractors or if it was because it got so cold in that house. Because I think they just left the doors wide open. So it got so cold, one of the water pipes broke. It actually flooded the house.
So it was on the second floor.
On the second floor, goes all the way down to the basement. But when it comes out the kitchen, it actually goes down the street and starts filling up a pond.
That's how they found out that there was a water leak in the house. That's how long it had been neglected.
And the water bill that they received was like $80,000.
Yeah.
Because of this leak.
Right. So that is,
hashtag Birmingham Waterworks, like they just going to let it run. Yeah, you would think that when it got to 60, somebody was going to call and say, are you guys okay? But that didn't happen.
Right.
So, don't count on Birmingham Waterworks to call you if your bathtub's running and overflowing. They're not calling.
Yeah, they're not coming.
No.
They're not going to be knocking on doors.
So there was that to overcome.
Yeah, there was that.
Because you could go down into the basement and immediately know, like, there's water.
Mm-hmm. So lots of things to overcome.
Right. So, but they had someone come in and tried to remediate a lot of it.
All of the mold and take care of the beams. All of the beams were sprayed.
Right.
Done really well. But again, in trying to go in and just piece back together things that needed to be pieced together, tons of construction work going on in the house.
So what do you do if you're a high net worth individual and you own a property, trying to get things done to it? But who do you trust at that point?
I think it depends on what your end goal is for that property. So, are you trying to move in it? I mean, there's everybody's
Well, let's just say you're trying to
different.
update it like he was,
Yeah.
Like, let's just say you're trying to update it. Like, who do you go to? Obviously you have to find someone you trust. I mean,
yeah. Well, there was a few people involved at this point, right? So I think he had put some layers in play that that were working towards that. And I think that he felt confident enough at this point to bring us in to kind of see what we suggested. But as I was talking about before, like we really got to the point after that contract fell through, it was like, okay, now what do we get to do?
That's
with
right.
This?
And getting back to that, do you think that when that contract fell through, that we sort of had a common denominator with the seller to hate on that buyer and say, this buyer should have performed? Do you think that brought us closer to that seller? Because I was scared that it was going to build a wall between us.
I really don't think that the seller was attached to any outcome at that point.
Right. It was really just sort of like, if it happens, it happens.
I really think so. And I think that, again, a lot of people in that position who, don't have a lot of time, it's kind of an afterthought. Like, can we get it off our books? Great. If we can't, we can't. If we do, we do. But again, that was another opportunity for us to kind of say, all right, what could we do with this property? Do we have other buyers? Or do we, bring in contractors? And because, I was really, really wanting to see the home renovated, restored. Right. Like, it is so gorgeous. It is just a work of art. And I wanted to see someone, I wanted to see it restored, fully restored. And I'm still really looking
because of the history, right?
Because of the
history of that house is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
It goes back.
It does. But we had, how many contractors do you think that you and I called out just to take a look at that property, just to get bids? And not only that, but like how many weeks do you think we spent?
I can't even count.
At that property.
I can't even count how many weeks that we actually stayed there. Where we were walking out the door 12, 1 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah.
Locking up.
Because
leaving.
There were hundreds of people in and out of the home, taking a look at it, measuring, doing estimates. And I remember it was really surreal to me because at one point I walked into our home and it felt like the second home.
Yeah, right. Right. It didn't feel like our house.
Our house didn't feel like our house. Montagel felt like our house because we had been spending so much time there trying to get everything that I felt like we needed to get together.
That's true, because we had Cokes and snacks in there for us, in the fridge, just so we didn't have to leave.
Mind you, while all of this was going on, no working restrooms, no running water.
That's true.
So we would leave, go visit.
There's a gas station down the street, y'all. Just to let you know.
Go grab Red Bulls.
It didn't get that weird.
Gas stations. But it was such a journey and such an experience for us because again, with the house managers, with the contractors, and then being able to really go back to the seller with a plan.
Right. That was the biggest thing for me was when we had the plan. Mm-hmm. We finally got it all together. We were able to send him these quotes, and it's like, hey, guess what? Not only are we overseeing your property for you, but look at this amazing job that we're doing.
Yeah, but I think we got really close. I really think he was within a hair or two of saying, okay, let's do it. We got really, really close. But we had some interest from local parties and we knew people and we had brought some people
But he wanted to explore those too.
He wanted to explore that.
Because he didn't really want to have to go to on the market and all the things because, there's more involved with that. So it's like, hey, let's go back and see what your people think, right?
Yeah. So we were able to bring in, again, we showed the house off market probably 30 times, 25
somewhere
times.
around there. Yeah, if not more.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to, go back 3 years and think about how many times we've actually been in the property and how much time we've spent and how many of those showings were actually showings versus contractors, but 25, 30 times off market to try to find that, buyer.
Right.
And it just wasn't going the way that we
yeah, and
that we wanted it to go. There's a lot of super low ball offers and that's such a special property. And regardless of how busy you are or what you have going on, the seller knew what that property should bring and was worth. And he was willing to hold out a little bit to see if we could get, to his number. So
yeah, I remember we showed it to one guy, and to put it in perspective, to show this house takes what, an hour and a half
at least.
Each time you show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then there's also like sometimes you had to take breaks because we had older people with us, and they would have to go to the gas station down the street.
The elevator didn't work.
And the elevator didn't work, so some people didn't get to see it all, and we'd have to go up there and film and actually come back down the stairs and show them what it looks like up there.
Sure.
But I remember this one guy, and I don't know why he sticks out, but he says, it's 2.5 or nothing. And I said, sir, let me get your umbrella for you. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get you out of here.
We've got to get home to dinner.
We got to get home to dinner. You're wasting my time. And, just ridiculous, like you were saying, low ball offers.
Right. And it's so true because I think that for so much of this property, and it would have been a great deal, for anyone. Like the house sold 4.8.
Right.
It was a great deal at 4.8.
That's an insane deal at 4.8.
Yeah.
No matter how you look at it.
Right.
I mean, the property by itself, and that's sort of, what we had been telling everybody from the beginning.
Yes.
Why would you not buy this?
Mm-hmm.
And then we put it on. We get it listed, it goes online, and it goes viral.
Yeah.
And then it's like everybody wants to come back and try to buy it now. But now you're not even you're not in the ball game anymore because now look at the competition that we've created for the house.
Well, and I think that is part of the, process too that I would love to touch on is we've been asked so many times, what exactly did you do to get this house sold? It's actually, let's just talk about this because it's never been sold before.
It was built. It was built.
It was listed.
Never sold.
It didn't sell, so they put it
on an
auction. Gave it to auction.
Right.
And it was auctioned the first time.
Right. And then, I've heard stories about that auction. And I think you did too, where they were actually sitting at that table in that dining room. Yeah. And, someone actually won the bid, but didn't cough up the money to buy it.
Right.
And then what happens?
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a deal worked out sort of behind the scenes, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. The house did sell at auction to the seller. And, here's the rest of the history. Here's the rest of it.
Right.
So we've got an opportunity now to put the house on the market. And we were told in February of 2025.
But we're also at a disadvantage, though, because, we don't have any water. We've got a house that has mold. We got a house that needs new windows. No kitchen.
No kitchen.
Half the basement's gone. Mm-hmm. Half the upstairs gone.
Right.
And what do you do? We got broken windows and stuff all around this house. So this is the moment where we started picking up.
Yeah.
Well, at first we were scared to touch anything.
Right.
We didn't want to break anything.
Right.
And then we're responsible for it, So at this point, we sort of got the green light.
We got the green light to
do what you need to do.
Do what you need to do, but do not show the full scope of the house. Right. So we were limited on what we could do, what we couldn't do, what we could show, how he wanted the house brought to market, which I think was really the smartest way
1,000%
to bring the house to market. And two, for us, like as an agent, and especially in the luxury market, you want to put your best foot forward. And we were really kind of like looking at each other going, how are we going to do this with this property? Well, I think this is where it gets super interesting for agents out there. So if you're an agent, you should probably listen up because everybody thinks this was such an easy breezy deal. But you and I went over
for weeks and cleaned this place up.
And we moved like 30-foot windows ourselves, me and you, like putting 30-foot wooden windows on to a dolly, and
we were rolling them into the garage. Right. With the little, the wheel that would get caught into the brick driveway, and then you have to push it over it. And it was a mess.
Yeah. And so
all the tile that was on the roof,
slate
tile was stacked by the pallet in the front of the house.
The front of the house.
So, we're putting, all this heavy slate and pushing it. We're inside sweeping up all the, the rodents that we were talking about, the dust. We cleaned that house twice.
Yeah.
Once to just kind of see what we're looking at.
Right.
The second time.
Without water.
Yeah, without water. We had to go to Costco and got the big jugs of water and used that sort of like
to mix our pine sol with.
To mix it with the pine sol. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a journey. It was a journey for you and I. We bought a vacuum cleaner. I think it's still there. That was.
I left it there for good reason. I mean, like that was not coming back into my house. I wasn't even upset about it because after it sold, I was like, "That's my vacuum," but I know it's in there.
Throw that in.
Yeah, throw that in. Yeah.
So, I do have video and photo of us mopping and sweeping and cleaning. And what are you doing, Steven?
Huh? Yeah, being a luxury real estate agent. That's what I'm doing. Glamorous. But we did the best we could in that place. If you go back and look at the photos, go watch the video. Look how awesome it is. How awesome what was good that we could show.
Right.
How awesome it looks.
Yeah. And it
looked nothing like that.
No. And I think that, when we got the photos and we got the video back from the photographers, I actually think you and I were kind of shocked with how great it looked.
Right.
Because of what we saw initially and then what we were able to really bring to life to the market.
Yeah, and and just to touch on this just a tad bit more, when we were showing this house with some other agents, they said, I would have pressure washed the driveway. I would have done this and that and the other, but we didn't have running water, first and foremost. Second, the quote to pressure wash the driveway was $80,000. I'm like, no, you wouldn't have. That's how. Right, yeah. I'm like, no, you just don't know.
Right.
Because we're not talking about an average house. This house is massive. 27 acres.
Yeah.
And the driveway takes up a huge portion of that.
It does. It does. So the task at hand, bringing the home to market, we get it to market. It looks great. We strategically only posted one photo for the coming soon, which, our phone blew up.
Right.
The day that it went onto the market.
There was a lot of people who watched that house.
Yeah. And I have to give a shout out to a few people who called that I had conversations with. Ed Milet. Yeah, you missed a great deal.
Man, you did miss a great deal.
Yeah. That was a great conversation, and he was like, look, I'd be all in at 3. Like I'd come out there for $3 million. And I'm like, we've had better offers than that. So, I think.
Yeah, we had a better offer way in the beginning when we had showed it to our client, from St. Petersburg.
Thank you. And then we got to talk about Shaq.
Oh my God.
Sliding into
I was so jealous.
So
I was like, I looked up at Shaq my whole life. He didn't even reach out to me. He reached out to you.
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal.
But
yeah.
I'd hit up the hotline too. Like
Shaquille O'Neal in my DMs on Instagram, and he's talking about, he might be in the market for that property. So that was a fun conversation. But, we had
hedge fund guys, I guess, I had a ton of hedge fund people who called. And so to back up for a minute, when this house hit the market, it went viral.
It did.
That's how all these people start calling us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we posted the video, it was getting 2 million, 3 million views. I mean, I think I woke up to 100,000 likes, and I was like, "What's happening?"
Right.
You know,
right.
50 missed phone calls on my phone, and I was like, "Wow."
Yeah. This is, again, a very, very special property, once in a lifetime opportunity, I feel like. But, we started scheduling the showings.
Right.
And the seller had some very specific requests about what he wanted to make sure. And of course, we've done this before.
Right. We have already been down this road. So we already knew the requirement was you need to have proof of funds ready to go.
Yeah.
Before we even waste our time talking to you.
Well, again, an hour and a half, 2 hour showing.
Right. And that's another thing too, is like, the seller's time, our time, we're trying to find the buyer. And we're not going to find the buyer if we're showing it to, Susan and Ken, who live down the street and just wanted to come by and see it. Right.
But, the crazy fraud pre-approvals that we were getting, and
that's a whole other situation that most realtors don't realize. And I get calls all the time from other realtors who know that, we have looked at a bunch of fake ones, and they're like, "Hey, does this look like yours?"
Right.
Some of the fake ones that you've gotten. And I'm like, "Yeah, looks pretty fake to me."
Yeah. So
you got to watch out.
Yeah, you do. And verified pre-approvals and all of these things took a lot of time too, to get ready and to prep for, even before it hit the market. But, we had launched, when we knew that we were going to bring this property to market, we redid our entire website. We pulled everything down, started redoing everything, just geared towards this specific property. And there were so many things marketing wise that, we did behind the scenes that, we'll probably never talk about and people just don't understand. But it was an all out, really just
everything was strategic.
It was strategic.
We had already talked to a lot of the marketing people about this house. Did we know it was going to go viral? No.
We had no clue.
Because we had made a Facebook post that said, we quietly posted this. And everybody said, yeah, but it went viral. But you don't know something's going to go viral when you post it.
No.
Doesn't matter how good the content is. It doesn't matter what it is. You could post it up and it could be a fluke. So we didn't know. We did quietly post it.
Yeah. And within, just, a day or two, we started lining up showings.
Right.
And before I knew it, we had 30 plus showings for qualified buyers.
Right.
We were showing the house 5-6 times a day because honestly, we would start marking out time and then it would get dark and then it was like, oh, we've got no more time. So then we brought the team in.
Yeah. And we had our team there. It was literally a revolving door. They were taking on buyers.
People were walking up to the door, didn't know who they were supposed to meet. There were agents everywhere. It really felt like museum tours going on.
And it was sort of a museum tour, though. It really did feel that way. I was like, hey, who are you here to see? You're here for your scheduled appointment time. I'm sorry, but your appointment's not until 30 minutes.
Right.
You're going to have to come back.
They're at the back.
Right.
You're going to have to come back in 30 minutes.
Come back in 30 minutes. I do remember that. And it was so cool to see our team like that.
It really was.
Come together, to sell this place.
Yeah. And, they've had an opportunity to be involved in a transaction that they never would have been involved, been able to be a part of. And one of our agents filmed a video there. And then his video went viral.
Right.
And then he's picking up buyers, just from
right, because he had a king from Africa.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we had a king from Africa come and,
tour the property with them.
Right.
Yeah. So that was really cool. I mean, I love that aspect of it too. But let's talk about the buyer for a second.
Yeah.
When the buyer came in, he actually messaged you.
Right. He actually came.
Well, let's talk about how I dropped the ball on this time and didn't answer the text back. But his sister texted and says, "Hey, I'm an agent. I have a buyer interested."
But that was a million and a dozen.
But we got to remember, we were getting, hundreds of text messages a day that we couldn't keep up with while we're trying to show the property. So we really, again, like you said, had to be strategic. And, our capacity was, we were over capacity, to be able to respond to these phone calls and text messages at this point. So we were doing the best we could.
Once the video went out there, the amount of phone calls we were getting increased.
That's right. So buyer messages you on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. Reaches out to me on Instagram and is like, "Hey, we'd want to come see the property." And I tell them, first thing, well, here's a little bit about the property. We need, proof of funds. This is my cell. Call me. Yeah.
And of course, he was doing all those things, talking, saying all the right things.
All the right things,
Gets an appointment and comes, the next day or 2 days later, something like that?
Got us the letter, came the next day. He was in Florida, flies to see us the next day. Mm-hmm. They come by, him and his whole family.
11.
He brought 11 people with him.
11 people showed up.
Again, it's like showing a museum.
2 dogs, 2. I remember it was 11 people and 2 miniature dogs because there was the wife was carrying around a gorgeous little puppy that she had just gotten, and then the mother-in-law, I think, or mom, was also carrying around a puppy. And I just thought that was just the most fun showing that we could have had.
It was the most fun because, first and foremost, when they just get out of the car, I'm like, what a gorgeous family. And we spent all day there.
Yeah.
We showed that house until we all had flashlights, and we were all running around this house showing them. Mm-hmm. And we were just having a blast.
It had gotten dark outside. They didn't want to leave. They had more questions. They just, you could tell. Because, there was a lot of people that saw the house that, I do this when I go buy a car. I'm not going to be attached. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how much I love it. I am not showing you that I love this car. I'm trying to get my deal. They weren't like that. And
they loved it. Right.
And you could see it. It was infectious how much they loved that property. And over the course of this time, we had had so many questions. Oh my gosh, it would make an amazing wedding venue. We could.
It was never going to be anything commercial.
It was not. The HOA they pride themselves on the close knit community that this home is in,
the privacy,
and their privacy, and they didn't want to see it become a commercial, building or structure. So we knew that going in, and we had to say that. I don't even know how many times, but we were kind of tasked with you've got people that want to protect the integrity of the home and want to bring it back. You've also got people who wanted to tear it down, wanted the 27 acres, wanted to subdivide the property and build homes in there. And then, there was this family who fell in love with the house.
Right. And you could tell. And, as a real estate agent, and this, I know this, there's a moment.
Yeah.
That that you're like, this is our guy.
Yeah. He his whole family. His whole family. And it was really kind of funny because we didn't know what the offer was going to be. We didn't know what the, terms were going to be. And we had presented a couple of offers up to this point to the seller, none that he wanted to accept.
Right.
And then we get to the point with this buyer where it's like, okay, what is it really going to be? And he came back with some terms that the seller really loved. It was pretty much a guarantee for the seller, which I think is what won him the deal.
That's right. And some of those terms we can't talk about, but it is what led up to it being such a long process from that moment, from the moment that it was accepted.
But again, it was strategy.
It was strategy.
And I think that is, and I almost hate we can't really talk about it, but the strategy that goes into what is a win for the buyer, what is a win for the seller. They both walked away from this deal feeling like they got everything they wanted out of that deal. which is a huge win.
And that's mission accomplished for us, right?
Yeah, for sure.
To be able to say that we took care of the seller and the purchaser and both were happy.
Yes. Yeah.
Which 99% of the time almost never works out.
But
like somebody's walking away.
Over an 8-month process. Right. And there were about 10 or 15 people involved in getting this to the closing table that we couldn't fit in this room today.
True.
But like it would not have happened without every single person.
Oh my gosh.
Doing
over
everything
an 8-month period.
Yeah. Everything that they could do to make this work out.
Right. And there was so much paperwork. For
there
8
was
months.
Just 350 documents at closing. That didn't include over 200 documents that we had from listing to contract, from addendums, and every bit, of the mortgage paperwork that was done. So just imagine. And all of those.
And the emails. Could you imagine the amount of emails that we had to not miss over an 8-month period of time? Some agents have a hard time holding a deal together for 30 days.
Yeah.
We held this together for 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah. High five.
It feels like the Super Bowl. It's like, man, this is what they have to go through to get to the Super Bowl. And then, you won.
But, so I've gone back and done the math, and I think that it is interesting to see that it came out to about 50 cents an hour, for how much time we put into that, like we made 50 cents an hour on this deal, over the last 2.5 years.
Crazy. It was 50 cents an hour.
I feel like my time's worth more than that, but at the
Depends
end
on who you ask.
Right. At the end of the day, this was it was an honor to be part of being able to sell this house.
I feel the same way. Like, wow, we did that, and going all the way back to look at that house on the market. Like, that's an insane house to being able to say, wow, this is our listing now.
Well, and I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of work that it takes to move a luxury property. But
something they don't know.
I also think that they underestimate how powerful picking up the phone and having a conversation is. So, if you could go back to answer your phone, make your phone calls. How many times do I tell our agents this? Like
every day.
It's an everyday morning huddle. You've got to do the basic things in real estate to stay relevant, to get the job, to do the deal. It's so important that you keep your finger on the pulse of what's important to that buyer, to the seller, and make sure that you are putting that back in front of them every chance you get.
And it's about the marketing too, right? What if you're not posting to social media, because this buyer came through Instagram.
Right?
And reached out to me. Mm-hmm. That's the last place that I thought the buyer was coming from.
Yeah.
So why are agents not posting stuff on their social media?
Well, that's another episode of our
Okay,
our podcast,
we'll push that to the side because I think we might be running out of time here.
I think this should be a compelling reason of why you should be posting to Instagram, why you should be posting to YouTube, why all of those things are super relevant, super important to today's buyers and high net worth individuals. They don't have a lot of time to peruse to see what's going on, Zillow, Realtor.com, all of those things. But they do see they do see reels. They see stories.
It's going to catch his eye, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to catch their eye.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an agent who's putting stuff out there to try to catch these people's eyes, then how are you going to sell a luxury property?
Right.
And how much money did we spend marketing this place?
More than 50 cents an hour.
Yeah. Right. Because there's just a lot. There's a lot to cover and it's hard to go back to think about every penny that we did spend.
Yeah. But we had a whole team behind us, pulling things together and helping us through. We definitely could not have done it just you and I by ourselves.
No, no way. Because even when we were going through the vetting process, looking over the fake pre-approvals, the fake, proof of funds letters, and sending those to attorneys saying, "Hey, is this real?"
Right.
Because the last thing we wanted to do was make the situation worse.
Sure. Sure. And there's a lot of liability when you're allowing people into homes, and that's another thing that we deal with on ultra luxury properties is, everybody thinks that just because it's on the market, they can go in it and they should be allowed to go in it. And,
True.
What we take very seriously is that is someone's home.
That's right.
They're going to sleep there.
Because you don't know if they're coming there to case the place out, right?
Well, you just don't know
they could come back later.
You don't know about anything at this point. Like, you're just basically opening it up and allowing strangers into your home where you're going to come into later and go to sleep.
Well, there's got to be some sort of requirement. I mean, if you're going to come in and you have really nice paintings, you have nice luxury, cars and jewelry just laying out, you want to know that person that's coming into your house is really there to buy it.
Exactly. And I think a lot of agents who don't have a ton of experience with this, what we found in another property, not this property in particular, but in another luxury property that we had, people were calling inexperienced and targeting inexperienced agents.
That's right.
To get them really excited and over a potential sale of a $3, $4, $5 million property. And what agent's not going to be really excited to get a phone call out of the blue and go show a $4 million property, with the pre-approval? And that's where we really have to be diligent of making sure that they're properly vetted before coming into those properties.
My gosh, yeah, and and I do understand the buyer who would say, "I don't want my name, I don't want to show you how much money I'm worth," But we weren't even really asking for even that. A proof of funds letter could say anything from a legitimate attorney's office that says this client is able to purchase this house, based upon, what I've seen.
Right. Well, I think that 7 Montagel Way was a
once in a lifetime.
It was a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to sell that.
I mean, do you think it was once in our lifetime? Do you think it'll ever come back?
I don't know. The buyer is pretty in love with it right now. I don't know if it'll come back. Yeah. It's a legacy property that could be passed down for generation to generation to generation in that family, and that would be an amazing thing for them. So I don't know, but bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Huh?
So if you have a massive mansion and it's not working out, call us. I mean, is that what we're saying?
If it's been flooded and it's
and you've been taken advantage of,
right?
But I mean, but on a serious note, if there are people in Birmingham and they are looking for someone that they can trust to kind of oversee these things, would you do it again?
I would definitely do it again. It was so worth it to have the outcome that we had.
Right.
Happy seller, elated buyer. They're going to bring that property back. It's going to be amazing. And we're going to be able to witness all of that. So
so cool.
100% would do it again.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fun show today.
Has it?
Yeah. I think we have.
Okay. Well, was there anything that we missed that we should talk about before we cut this off or, whatever? I don't know. And this is part 1, right? Are we doing a part 2 here? What can they expect after this?
Yeah, I think that, our podcasts are just going to be super real, super authentic, our experiences that we've had, and just expect, more crazy stories, because there's always something. There's always a funny story. I mean, I think about sometimes if we had a GoPro strapped on our head, like, people would not believe what they were watching.
Right.
So I'm just hoping to bring some more of that to to the real estate industry, real estate world, and share what we go through on a day-to-day, behind-the-scenes basis.
Well, This has been awesome. I guess we're leaving together. I'd say, see you later. But we're going to actually be leaving the studio together. So we got some cool stuff that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stories. Lots of cool stories.
Cool stories today. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time.